So let's go to the next level, okay? So what I'd like to do here is go to software and IT. How you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Okay, cool.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. As we go through the day, we'll probably be swapping out and just kind of let you take over a little bit. Allergies.
I know, nasty. Who knows? We might get a freeze. It's supposed to get really cold this week, right?
I don't know. So, really quick before we go into that, do we want to switch gears a little bit and go into Excel and play with some cool things about spreadsheets and cool things about databases, or what do you think would be best?
If you'd like to, would you like to do that, or?
Well, we're just popping through these so fast right now. It almost is like, okay, whatever. Like, but they are really, really cool. And
definitely great tools.
What we do is, Adilas actually says, okay, we don't really necessarily use a word processor type thing, but we already start using Excel. We already start using a database. We already start getting into almost a software where you're getting an integrated system type thing. Okay, like we don't use some of those lower tools. Those are things that you have at your dispense, but we do start using spreadsheets, and there's pieces of spreadsheets that we actually mimic inside of our system, just-in-time calculations and all that kind of stuff. And so those are kind of cool. So
yeah, definitely.
Let's jump out for just a second. I'll just hit save here on this. We'll open up an Excel document. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to kind of just briefly talk about some of the cool things about spreadsheets, and maybe, oh, I already thought of one that we needed to add, like you can size some of your rows and columns, and you can merge things and stuff like that.
There's a lot of flexibility that way.
And this right here, this particular exercise is just kind of like just playing, if you will. So.
This here, you destroyed mess.
Okay, great. I'm going to actually jump back in here. Awesome. Why don't you ask Joe if he has a mic or a speaker or anything, and we'll just see if he has any questions or comments, and we can go wherever he would like to go if he would like us to, and so we can just kind of go from there. How's that other saving process going?
Hopefully it's done now. It should be. Let's see. Last time I checked, I had 5 minutes. But I think it was done. So. Yeah. Okay, so I will plug it, and I will hope that it was done. It wasn't showing up, so I think it's done.
Okay, cool. Great. So while you're doing some of those different little things or whatever you're doing, I'm going to actually go ahead and start playing with spreadsheets. One of the cool things about spreadsheets is you can name things, you can put things anywhere you want, you can copy, paste, you can move stuff, but because it is in organized data.
Which one was this, do you know?
F or E or something like that.
It told me to eject it. Is it just like an HP tool one?
Yeah. Minor detail. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to show you with an Excel document is normally you have your column headings at the top. And I'm going to actually change all of my font size just really quick, just so it'll be a little bit bigger. Okay, great. So you could easily just do some simple little.
So he said he has no mic today, he's on his laptop, and he'll be in and out again.
Okay.
But he will chat with questions when he can.
Okay, great. Joe, what we were doing is it's basically us three again, kind of like what we were doing yesterday morning. And Shannon and I, since no one else was here, we were just kind of going through more tools and stuff. Let me kind of bring you up to speed where we were at. By the way, how was your conference that you went to with the cloud guys and stuff? Just kind of, I know you went to a little seminar. Just curious how that worked out for you. What we did is yesterday, you were here when we started out with our mind, head and mind as the first tool you use, and then we switched into paper and pencil, kind of writing things down. Then we went into word processing, kind of computer documents. And what we are doing right now is we just spent some time and we went into spreadsheets, just kind of rows and columns and spreadsheets.
He actually missed the conference last night. His daughter's volleyball game went late, so he wasn't able to make it.
Well, that's okay. We'll get you wired up here, so it's all good. So basically, what we're doing is just kind of slowly advancing the ball and seeing what we gain, and then also what other new complications it kind of brings to the puzzle as far as with the different tools. So we went through spreadsheets and we kind of did a little bit of, spreadsheets are awesome. That's, if I was going to pick a tool that was a great invention, like there's tons of good ones, but a spreadsheet is a pretty darn cool invention. And we just kind of talked about that as far as some of the cool things that you can do with spreadsheets. Graphs and functions and formulas and references and splitting cells and sizing things and merging data. And then we kind of talked about some of the limitations. One of them was volume and history. Like if you change something, it just changes. And so you don't have any way to go back to that at all. We also kind of talked about different ways to break a spreadsheet. And once again, deals with electricity, or if you're starting to insert rows and columns and your formulas get mixed up, it might have some issues and stuff. So then we talked about databases. Databases is the next step above Excel spreadsheets, or spreadsheets. And this is where you start getting to organize your data into whatever you want. Like it's very, very flexible and modular, and you can return and report it, and you can make it pull histories, and you can connect things, and you can create objects and all kinds of neat things. Basically what we were going to do is, instead of going right on to software, like small systems and IT stuff, we were actually going to jump into a spreadsheet and kind of really quick talk about some of the different little pieces of the pie and how they work. But if you have questions or comments or anything, please let us know. We're here to help wherever we can. So that's basically what we're going to do. We should have a number of other people coming to join us here later today. They're just kind of trickling in a little bit later today. So we'll keep running this first hour here and kind of see where we end up at. Okay, Shannon, so let's jump into a spreadsheet here.
Okay, Joe's asking, speaking of spreadsheet, can you go over how you would enter a big database of inventory, so customers such as a bowling pro shop, into a customer things?
Okay, cool. So Joe, here's a question. We need to know, are we talking just entering items in, or are we talking, okay, we actually need to enter customers items and then tie them together. We use invoices to tie them together, okay? We actually use invoice line items, so it's way separated down in a way. But basically, I'm going to grab my marker out for just a second, just for fun, and I'm just going to kind of show you what we do, okay? Let's say that this is your parts and your images, okay? We'll go a P right here. This is your parts. Over here you have your customers. This is how we store things, okay? And then eventually, to connect these to your parts and your customers, we use a thing called invoices.
Yeah, and he's wondering about all of the above, so this is great.
Okay, perfect. So in order to connect your parts to your customers, we use an invoice. But an invoice isn't just an invoice. An invoice has a main, and then we also have this little thing that we call line items, which becomes your many. Okay? So this is your line items. And the important part about this is a many. Okay? So this is an infinity sign here. So what we do is literally the customer says he wants to buy one of your items. And so you go like this. Cool, I'll create an invoice and I'll add an item. So I'll connect here. Parts are connected to line items. Line items are connected to invoices. And invoices are connected to customers. Does that make sense how that little flow kind of goes right there? Then basically what we do is, because we're in a database model, we literally have a table for customers, a table for invoices, a table for parts, and then in order to get the whole thing connected, we have to get this little mapping thing going on. You can't just go customers to parts. You have to kind of create the rest of the flow so that all the pieces potentially work. Okay. One of the things that happens, you ask about a bowling pro shop. Let me just show you some information really quick, and I'll show you roughly what it would look like. So I'm in Excel. I'm just going to hit File, Open, and I have a whole bunch of documents that we've done for different people. Don't worry about who this data is actually for, but we'll just kind of go in there and play around with some of the pieces so you can see what we actually do behind the scenes. So we'll go into here and we'll go into customer lists and we'll just go find some items. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of items. Okay, so basically you have a part number, a description, a sale price, a possible barcode, a cost, an inventory type. This ID number is actually related to another thing inside of the system. And then you have the part category ID. This number is also related to something else that's in the system, okay? So 3044 to you means nothing, but in the background this might be, let's see here, sanding pads. So am I on the right line? Sanding pads. So maybe this was what they would call their supplies. But technically the 3044 would be supplies. So anywhere else you would see the 3044 would be connected to supplies. So humans like to see this part, but we actually store that in a separate table, and then we connect it via an ID to the inventory, if that makes sense. Okay? So basically, here's just some simple inventory, and we get it like this. This has been well combed, and then we're able to input it into the different pieces of the puzzle. What we do is we just get the Excel document, and say it might even look totally random when we first get it. Like just for instance, let's show you something like this. I'm just trying to see if we have another piece that I could. Okay, so here's what we started out with, just for instance, okay? This one is a much bigger document. It won't look near as clean, but sometimes what we do is we get big, huge documents, and then we go in and we clean them up so that it's ready for virtual import. We call it combing the data, and then we actually take the data and we pull it into a database and kind of run it from there. And I'm not sure what this one's going to actually show you, but I believe that this one will look way different, okay? So the original file that we got had all of these little different things here on it, just kind of all sorts of randomness clear out to forever, forever, forever long, okay? Well, we didn't need any of that data. And so this huge one that they put all this different little data and different things like this, they had multiple different little pieces of the puzzle and stuff. And what we did is we ended up eventually going back in and saying, okay, when we're finally done with it, we want it to look like this. Nice, clean data right here. The yellow was for me to kind of make sure that I knew where the end was. I probably have an end down at the bottom somewhere as well, like just rolling down through their data. Oops, went too far. Sorry. Oh. So if I'm scrolling around, I just wanted to make sure that I knew where my container was, and so I just kind of put like a little border around it, if you will. So this was 3,000 items that we had all nice and neat and compacted, but we had to do some major combing. This is literally what they sent us, and it went clear out to forever 50 million. So this is actually perfect, okay? So a database, when in our model, when I showed you those little drawings of the customers and the parts and the different things, the parts just holds a certain piece, and then as we connect it to different pieces, it just stays in that table. But look how far they had to come out here on this spreadsheet. Clear out to DD plus, you know, like you're way out here, and then you're way down. So like all of this data is what they gave us, and then we shrank it into what it needed to be. And sometimes we charge people $100, $200, depending on how much combing we have to do. If they can comb the data, or if you guys can comb the data before we get it, that makes it so much easier. And so then what you do, if you want to know what's actually happening, if you go to Adilas, and I'm just going to go to Adilas demo.
Joe asked, which we kind of talked about recently, would be a good idea. Do you have a template for them to fill in for Excel, or do you just spend a lot of time combing?
We spend a lot of time combing right now, and what's going on right now, Joe, is most people will export their data from all sorts of random formats. We have never found one that has been the same. And so we have some that we could recommend, but here's what I was going to do. I was just going to jump into, say, like Amber's Bookstore, or let's go to AAA Tree Services, okay? If you actually search for a part or an item here, let's see what they called their particular things. Service, probably, okay? And I'm just going to go all. One of the cool things that you can do is if you actually go to an edit on any single part, these are the pieces that we allow for us to store. A vendor name, the part name, like they changed their stuff to services, okay? But technically it would say the word part, okay? So the vendor, the part, the type, is it real or not real, meaning like physical or unlimited. We allow a category, a description. If they want, they can have a reference, a cost, a sale price, a markup, a unit of measurement. These are what we allow. This is what the system can physically hold. And so that's kind of our template. Instead of us producing it, we try to get it back into this level, and then we actually do the physical import of the data. But I would just go find, and this is their aeration package, but you have simple little pieces of the puzzle. So here, watch this. Here's the name, the vendor, the price, the unit of measurement. We can pull in quantities, no problem. Categories, bin number, reference numbers, barcodes, descriptions. Like those are the pieces that we look for. So just kind of find a format inside of Adilas that looks, and then you go from there. Usually when we do customer imports, it's slightly different. So instead of having just like, basically, long story short, we know that a format would probably be recommended. And maybe what we could do is create a recommendation, but we don't want to limit people to that, because like sometimes literally we'll get a vendor, a part number, and a description and a cost, and they don't even know what they're selling the thing for. So we have to kind of be flexible and be like, okay, cool. What do you want us to do? We'll just mark everything up by a certain percentage, or something like that. So we kind of have to be flexible on the imports.
I unmuted Joe. He's going to see if he can.
Oh, okay, great, perfect. Anyway, what I would do is I would go into Adilas and say, what does the main container hold, or what is it really important to these customers, and then we'll get that data, we'll get that combed, and we use people that are at, $10 an hour, $12 an hour to comb data, because you don't want me to comb data for you. I'll charge $100 an hour to comb data, so you don't want me to comb data. So. Hello, Joe. How's it going?
Oh, Joe, we just actually heard you. We heard the feedback from your computer. So your computer might have an internal mic. We heard you just barely.
Okay, how's that?
Good. We can hear you
Perfect,
great.
yep.
I have no idea where the mic is on my laptop here, but
They have a lot of internal mics. Just
yeah, I'll just kind of talk at the screen.
it's perfect. We can hear you great.
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right. Well, this is great because I know, Brandon, are you familiar with Tish and Mel in Colorado Springs?
I am very much so. Yes, I've never met them, but I have met them a couple, like via phone conferences and such.
Right. Mel is. I tell you what. When you talk to her on the phone, she's such a cheerful person and just a huge advocate of Adilas. It's just fantastic. So Desmond and I are going to go down and visit her. She's got a bowling match on Friday morning, and we're going to meet with her after she's done with that at one of her home pro shops, and she's going to kind of show us through how she operates the system, and how she some of the bowling lingo and things like that, because I think it's going to be a really good sweet spot, especially if we can use them as a bit of an ally and a kind of the advocates for Adilas. So we're going to go down there and take them out to lunch and learn all about the system. That's why I'm kind of referring to the bowling pro shop stuff, because I know Danny, I think he's kind of getting into the combing process, and I think it's probably something that I need to learn how to do it. Ideally, I'd be spending more time on selling it, but I think it's good for me to go through this and kind of see you do a little bit of a combing. Or I guess what I could do is even print up either like a customer or the parts line items and hand that to a prospective customer and say, hey, whatever you can fill out in here on a spreadsheet would be very helpful and time saving and money saving for them.
I think that's exactly what you would do, and we haven't created a template, if you will, but like what I would literally do is I would go to an item, and I switched to a bowling pro shop inside of Adilas, and I would basically have one thing open that said, what do you want to do? What do you want to call it? And then you come to an Excel piece and just say that you're on a different tab here. So we knew we had this. We had vendor, we have part number, or SKU number, whatever you wanted to call it. Then I would just kind of alt-tab back and forth, if you will, or if you had multiple browsers. Okay, we have a type, we have a category, and a description. So like literally it's like this.
So basically you go down the Adilas list and put it across in a column in Excel.
Correct.
And they can fill it in. Yeah.
So we do a reference and then a cost and then a sale price. So
that would make the combing process just tons easier, I'm guessing, for anybody.
For sure. It would make the mapping so much faster. If we had data that came in this type of a format, we could blast it in super fast. Like even if it was thousands of records and it was combed to this level, we could do it for under $100 and we could import their data with no problem.
That, I think, is something I will get my wife to work on. I'm okay with Excel, but when it comes to manipulating it, I usually fail and fumble.
No problem.
So I could, but she's pretty good at it. I could have her just go through. Now, certainly customers are going to have different, their own version of lingo and language, but I think for a bowling pro shop, it's going to be fairly standardized. I mean, there's balls and shoes and gloves and tape and drill procedures and all that.
So what I would do if I were you, Joe, is I would actually jump into the Adilas demo 1, 2, 3, 4 and go into the Pro Bowling Supplies. And if you go to actually, for instance, say like the Parts and General Inventory homepage, I'm just going to jump in there. They've got theirs under SKU number instead of part number. I'm just going to go home. But here's what they have for their categories. This is some of their lingo. They have accessories, bags, balls, gift certificates, gloves, grips, labor for drilling, services, shirts, shoes, etc. Like that's kind of their standard lingo. And then this is a great spot to come in here and actually play with them and like let them kind of see what's going on. That's what these play sites are for, to kind of get in there.
Exactly, and that's where I've been spending a lot of time, especially in the bowling pro shop stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it just takes practice, and that's part of what I'm doing is my demo stuff. But I think it's going to be helpful to visit Mel down there because she's kind of the bowling power user. So I'm going to learn a lot here on Friday.
Awesome. Hey, if you would like, there's another guy that's in Alabama that you may want to chat with. He actually has 30 different bowling pro shops. He set them all up. He's kind of the technical contact for one called McCorvey's Pro Shop. His name is Michael Weber.
Is that Michael Weber?
It is Michael Weber, yes.
I plan on contacting him, yes. I will track him down. And
he's a stud. I got an email from him just last night, and he was like, he's given us tons of ideas, and the way Adilas works is we get ideas, and ideas are free. We just kind of roll them into the general tick list, and then we try to produce them and push them out as we can. But he sent me a new idea last night. He's like, I really wish that the update inventory count was on its own permission instead of tied to the admin parts permission. And so
sure.
There's just good ideas coming constantly, so we love that.
He sounds like a good resource for you know, just kind of as a reference or testimonial, because he's the master of the industry, it sounds like. So he's set it up for all 30 of the locations for McCorvey's?
He did. So check this out. He went into the bowling play site, played around for a little while, and I have probably been on the phone with him for maybe a max of 2 hours. Steve probably has maybe 2 hours. And other than that, he's ran the entire thing himself. They have 30-some-odd locations spread across multiple states, and just he's kind of a superstar. Like,
yeah, I went to their website, and yeah, I mean they're across like 9 states.
Yeah, they've got a bunch. But
and then oh, I had one more question about that. So well, I'll think of it. Just go ahead and proceed. I have a question about McCorvey's too, but it went right over my head.
Awesome.
I'll think of it.
I think that I would actually love to meet Michael Weber. He actually helped with a couple of projects. He's technical enough. We actually hired him to do some projects inside of Adilas, and kind of they've been fairly small, but like last year when we were doing W-2s and 1099s, guess who we put on the 1099 project? We put Michael on there. So there's lots of different people that have lots of skills, and we're going to be seeing more and more of that. Like, Joe, this is kind of fun information, but I've already interviewed a number of people here in Logan, and yesterday in training, one of the guys that we're probably going to be using, he was here just kind of checking things out, but like we're trying to see if we can get a number of interns, and some of them are professionals, some of them are grad students, and so it's pretty cool. We're excited to get some help. So
great.
What can we do for you, sir?
Well, let's spend some time here in bowling, and that way, when I go and visit Mel and Tish, then I will, you know, be able to really integrate with what they're doing. So maybe some more. Oh, I know. A prospective customer in Arizona who was referred by Mel and Tish. He's got a company called Bowling Dynamics down there. He has 3 locations.
Okay.
And his issue is, well, he has a friend that's kind of doing the front for him, who's a fellow bowler and a tech guy. I guess he's a coder or programmer. And I talked to that guy yesterday, and he says, I just have to give this guy such a hard time because he has no technology in any of his shops. He does everything on papers and receipts and note cards, and apparently they have thousands of customers that have these data points that they have to keep record of, meaning, you know, how big are their fingers, how, you know, their drill patterns. I don't know exactly the lingo, but so they have these custom specs, and that's exactly what Mel called it. They have specs, and therefore they need spec sheets for each one of their customers. So they're going to have to transfer data that's on a 3x5 card onto Adilas, which is then going to be a customer log or FlexGrid, or how would something like that be produced or fabricated in Adilas?
Okay, so I would say two different options, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the map, if you're okay, just kind of explain, and then we can just actually jump in there. That's perfect. So I'm just going to kind of show you a general map, okay? And your question was, is you have Bowling Pro Shop guys, which technically are going to end up being your customers, okay? So inside of customers, we have a couple things that we can do. One of it is photos and scans. So the 3x5 card, you could physically connect that right to customers, no problem, okay? That's already exists. The other piece is, as soon as you said, I have custom data points, guess what I was thinking? You already said the word.
FlexGrid.
FlexGrid, okay? We have up to 15 custom fields that you could create automatically and then tie them to the different pieces, okay? And if something happened over time and you actually wanted to put like, hey, this was their settings in such and such a time, and this was their settings in such and such a time, you could just add a one-to-many relationship between customers and FlexGrid tie-ins, okay? Those are the pieces that I would use. I would definitely scan that physical document so you can have it. And that ties it right to the customer. And then the other piece would actually be recording the physical data points.